Hey, we're cooking with gas here on the Jewcast.
Okay, careful using a phrase like that.
This trial is a travesty. It's a travesty of a mockery, of a sham, of a mockery, of a travesty, of two mockeries, of a sham.
Tradition!
Oh, shut up, Carl! Shut your goddamn Jew mouth! You people are why there's war in the Middle East!
Gekakken van Jan.
Nebbig.
Ver poepoepoe.
Vermischt.
Verkakt.
Vertut.
Verstonken.
Fartig.
Exactly.
You're what Grammy Hall would call a real Jew.
Yes, episode 53. Here
Jonathan
we go.
Randall here.
I'm Jordan Ferber. Welcome, everybody.
Yeah, all right. We're talking about some Jew stuff. As always, we want to thank people who was reaching out to us on Instagram, social media. We want to thank everyone who's listened over the last year. We definitely do not want to thank all the anti-Semites that have been giving Jews a hard time all over the world. In France, some of the most anti-Semitic attacks, French Jews only make up 1% of the population. Yet, when it comes to anti-Semitism, they get, let's see, what is it? There was 687 anti-Semitic incidents last year.
Wow. Out
of a total of 1,142 racist hate crimes. I mean, the French are going to not be known just for, like, the Eiffel Tower and baguettes. But they're going to know for hating Jews. Apparently, recently...
Well, they also are known for being very rude. So this sounds very rude.
This is very, very rude.
Very rude.
They're stepping up the rude to a whole new level. This is beyond rude, actually. Anti-Semitism is like 10 steps past rude. Apparently, something recently happened where a bunch of 4 Arabs approached a Jewish man on the subway, asked him for a cigarette. He said he didn't have a cigarette. They said something along the lines of, "Oh, you're rich. You should be able to afford a cigarette." And then they were trying to, like... chase him.
Just because you can afford cigarettes doesn't mean you're a smoker.
I know. And then they were trying to chase him, and then French, Parisian subway passengers, they got in the way, and they prevented the Arabs from chasing the Jews. So it's good to know that there are some good French there saving the Jews. Shout out to those French people for getting in the way and not letting that Jew getting chased by an Arab.
All right, nice.
In other European anti-Semitism news, I guess there is a German church, a Gothic church, that has something called the Jew pig.
The Jew pig. Yeah, it's like a rabbi staring into the ass of a pig while other Jews are like feeding from it.
Yeah, suckling at
its teats.
And I guess they had a court case because they wanted to get it removed from the church. They said it doesn't belong to the church. They said maybe it belongs in a museum,
right?
To show people, what anti-Semitism at the Gothic.
And the government said no. It's like a landmark building. You can't touch it.
Yeah, they're like, no, we're gonna keep it on the church. I don't know. Is it good? Is it bad? I mean, you can still see it on the church. I mean, maybe they should have a plaque somewhere saying that this church does not condone anti-Semitism. This was something that happened back in the past, and we are happy that we have grown from this to be more accepting of all people.
Well, also, if you maybe boil it down to ultimately some of the Jews will be like, well, this is the synagogue we go to, and that's the synagogue we don't go to.
The church that they don't go to. Yeah. Anyways, it's Wittenberg's St. Mary's Church is what it is. I mean, there's a lot of St. Mary's churches, and this, anti-Semitism was widespread in the Middle Ages.
I don't know.
It's always been going on, and there was something interesting. We were reading about that, about why we always wonder this. Why are we hated so much? Why do people hate the Jews?
And apparently, there's an answer.
Well,
it's an interesting thing. Yeah, this guy George Steiner, who just
he
died.
Has an interesting theory.
Just recently died. Famously an anti-Zionist.
Right. Much like us.
But he posited the idea that people hate the Jews because we are like the pains in the ass of the world.
We are kind of like the moral compass of the world. We are telling people what is right, what is wrong. Before the Jews, everybody had their own gods, and they did their own thing, and they were allowed to do whatever that God said they could or they couldn't do. And then the Jews said, no, there's only one God, and this is right, and this is wrong, and we kind of were the conscience of the world.
Yeah.
And people don't want to be told what's right and what's wrong. And I guess that also comes across that, Jews think we're better than people. We know more what's good and what's evil. But, there's a lot of things that, Jews, I think, have spot on of what's right and what's wrong.
I think it's really an interesting way to look at it, though, to think about, like, this is a quote from this historian, Paul Johnson, talking about the history, in his book, The History of the Jews. He said, the Jews believe themselves to created and commanded to be a light to the Gentiles, and they have obeyed the best of their considerable powers. The results, whether considered in religious or in secular terms, have been remarkable. The Jews gave to the world ethical monotheism, which might be described as the application of reason to divinity. In a more secular age, they applied the principles of rationality to the whole range of human activities, often in advance of the rest of mankind. The light they thus shed disturbed as well as illuminated, for it revealed painful truths about the human spirit as well as the means to uplift it. The Jews have been great truth-tellers, which is one of the reasons they have been so much hated.
Oh, wow. People don't like to hear the truth. Hey, don't kill the messenger, especially if he's wearing a yarmulke. But, I hear a little bit of what this guy's saying. It kind of does make sense.
Yeah.
A lot of the anti-Semitism going on in Europe, I think, is really in correlation to what's happening in Israel, because with a lot of Muslim people that are doing the anti-Semitism. I think in America it has more to do with these, old Jewish anti-Semitic tropes and this. That, we are telling people that's wrong, that's right, and we do criticize. Jews are very known to criticize. I mean, your mom, when we were over here the other day, it was nonstop criticism. Even I took a second and said, oh my gosh, is this what my ex-girlfriends have thought of me? That's a Jewish thing, to be critical, a Jewish mother thing. I feel like on all Jew thing, where we kind of like, hey, we think we know the better way to do things, the good way to do things, the most efficient way to do things, the most, dare I say, cost-effective way to do things. And, we said, no, there's only one God. There's not, like, all your gods, they're all BS.
The way that this guy talks about it is saying that we are trying to show the world the rest of the world what true altruism looks like, trying to shed the basic human nature of being selfish and self-centered and being more in service of others.
Which is a very good thing. One thing that I always had against religion, growing up in an Orthodox community, having Judaism be a big part of my life, was that, like, I didn't need the Bible to tell me the difference between right and wrong. I feel like I know it. I feel like I have this thing inside me that guides me, that knows this is wrong. This is right. This is not a good thing to do. I don't need a book to tell me that was written whatever.
Well, we live in a society that reinforces a lot of those ideals as well. Thousands of years ago, who knows? We probably did need these texts to help people.
These guys. Well, a lot of the stuff that has to do with Judaism, I also think it was a different time, and things weren't as clean, or some of the laws made more sense back then, but now they don't make sense. The whole thing about not eating pork or shellfish or stuff like that. Like, sure, it was a lot worse back then. They don't have the technology that we have today to keep it clean, to keep it refrigerated, that kind of stuff.
They don't have any of the recipes either.
Oh, no, definitely not the recipes. I don't think they were aware of bacon back then.
Right? I'm sure all pork was bone-in back then.
So, we're thinking about changing up the format a little bit. We've had, a lot of people love that we talk about the Torah portion, but we've talked about all the Torah portions.
Well, we got a couple left.
We got a couple left, but we've talked about that. We will have talked about them all, and we don't want to just be repeating ourselves. So we're going to maybe not talk about the Torah portion. Maybe we could talk about something else, but we're going to try to mix it up. One thing that we're having done is, right now, there is a matchmaker at work trying to set both Jordon and I up with some nice Jewish women. I have basically exclusively dated shiksas. And you've dated a couple of Jewish women, right?
I've dated some Jewish women, but I've also dated, my last serious relationship she was not remotely Jewish.
She was not Jewish at all. Maybe a little Sephardic. But anyways, so she's trying to set us up. Her name's Yael. She's a matchmaker. She's also done some comedy. She's an Orthodox Jew. And she's very excited about the prospect. She says she has a very spiritual way of doing this and setting people up, and she's very confident in herself.
Yeah, she has like psychic abilities, she said.
She's been posting on Facebook. She's been reaching out to her friends, and she's trying to find some nice Jewish girls. So I think, my grandma she's always telling me, the reason why relationships don't work out is because they haven't been Jewish women. So maybe Yael will introduce us to some nice Jewish girls, and My grandma will be very happy, and maybe she'll be right.
Yeah, well, at the very least, you can at least tell your grandmother that, you're looking for your beshert.
I'm trying to find a Jewish woman.
Yeah.
Oh, shout out to our boy Dan Mandelbaum, who's a listener, a huge supporter of both the podcast and our comedy careers. Mazel tov, he's getting married this week.
He's getting married this
Wish
Sunday.
Wish you all the best and all the love and all the happiness in the world.
Mandelbaum.
Should we now get into this week's Torah?
Yeah,
portion?
as I said, we got a couple of Torah portions left, and this is an exciting one. We didn't do that, as we get to where we started a year ago. This is a pretty exciting one. This is the one where Moses parts the Red Sea.
He parts the Red Sea.
Well, first, I think it's kind of funny. Last week's Torah portion was the final of the 10 plagues, and Pharaoh finally lets the Jews go. And in the beginning of this one, it's like he changed his mind right away.
Well, I like it again how they say, and then God hardened Pharaoh's heart. Like God wanted Pharaoh to chase after them. It's so weird. It's so twisted.
He's like, get out of here.
It.
And then he sends his people like, actually, no, chase after them and bring them back.
His people come to him and they're like, oh, why'd you let the Jews go? They were great. God hardens his heart. They go to get to Jews. The Jews are then complaining. They still don't believe. It's crazy. They saw the 10 plagues. They saw everything that's going on, and still they're unsure of God. And they're like, God, why did you take us out of Egypt just to let us die in the wilderness right now? At least we could have died back in Egypt. Now we're going to die in the wilderness. They're on our ass. They're about to get to us. They're gonna kill us.
Yeah.
I guess there was a cloud that was guiding the Jews during the day, and then there was a fire that guided them at night, and then I guess the cloud came and it went to the back of them, and it got in the way between them and the Egyptians. And also, God was taking them on a roundabout way. He wasn't taking them on the easy way to get to Israel, because why would he do anything easy for the Jews? I mean, it's bad enough we were just slaves in Egypt. We finally get out, and God's like, oh, now I'm going to make you travel for the desert for a while. We're going to do this the hard way, because, the Old Testament, God likes to do everything the hard way.
It's not like we're going to, beat the traffic by going around.
No, we're not going to beat the traffic. God tells Moses to raise his staff. He raises the staff. This is a magical staff. This is a great staff. This is like, is this Gandalf's staff?
It's got a lot of purposes. I mean, it turns into a snake. It eats other snakes.
Staff could do anything, okay? I got to get one of these staffs. I mean, screw your Harry Potter wand. Moses' staff is where it's at.
I know. Serious.
He parts the sea. The sea parts.
Yep. They walk right across.
They walk right through. And
he raises it again, and it
the Egyptians,
kills the Egyptians.
Follow, and
swallows
it kills
them.
It swallows them all up, the sea. And now the Jews are like, God is for real. They sing a song.
Yeah.
They sing a song of songs for God, and they're super happy.
And as soon as they're done singing, they're like, all right, we are starving.
We are so hungry. And again, they start complaining. Oh, why did you take us out of Egypt so we could just starve in the wilderness?
Again.
And they're like, oh my God, like whatever, God will take care of you. God says, yeah, he's going to send down the manna from the heavens, that they're going to collect with the dew every morning, and there's going to be quails at night, so they'll have food. He tells them that manna, there's only enough they're only should take each for each day. If they try to take some and keep it extra, it's going to it gets all, like, people did do that, and it gets all wormy and moldy and disgusting and bad. And then he says, but on Friday
you can take 2 portions.
Friday you take 2 portions, because Saturday's the 7th day. It's the day of rest. This is when God's giving another one of the first commandments, I guess, before the actual 10 commandments, where he's giving the Jews a law saying that, hey, you gotta observe the Sabbath, make your food on the 6th day, and on the 7th day. And some people still don't believe God, and they go looking for the manna, and there is none on the 7th day. From when I growing up, I remember being told that the manna would taste like anything you wanted it to taste like. He also asked them to put some manna in a jar to show to the future generations, so they have the manna. Meanwhile, then the Jews walk more, and then what? There's no water.
He makes the water of
the sea. They go to one place, and the water is really bitter and disgusting. So he turns the water to sweet.
Right.
And then there's another place where he hits the rock. So
water comes out.
Water comes out of the rocks, and then
with the staff again. With the
staff. It has a lot to do with water. It could transform water. It could create water. And then Amalek, the people of Amalek, they come and they attack the Jews.
Right.
And they become like huge enemies of the Jews. And God decrees that like all the people of Amalek should be wiped out forever.
Right. Yeah, God is definitely not a fan
God
of the...
hates Amalek. I mean, Pharaoh, he'll hard it his heart to just keep having him chased, but he's like, Amalek, forget it. They are dead to me.
And that's the end of this week's portion,
That's
right?
the end of this week's portion. So, I mean, parting of the Red Sea is a pretty big thing. It's pretty big, known biblically. It's a pretty big event that happens.
Yeah. It's in the trailer for sure.
It probably was in the trailer of the Ten Commandments with Charlton Heston. Something I didn't realize when I was
you can pry this staff out of my cold dead hands.
You damn dirty Egyptians. Was that it kind of happened like overnight. Like he raised the staff and then God brought in a wind or something. I don't know. I'm sure there's some scientific explanation to how this could have happened. Maybe with like the tides or something. But we're going with the story that God and Moses, they did this together.
You would think that after the plagues, the Jews would believe God is real. And then after, you can sort of start to see why everybody hates the Jews a little bit in this one. Like they're just so ungrateful.
They are ungrateful. Well, God no wonder God makes us like he won't make it easy for us.
Like we have a very
we're still criticizing.
We have a very what have you done for me lately attitude though towards God in this portion.
Yes, we do. I mean, it's he parts the sea. We're singing. We're like God, 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 and they're like, why did God do this to us?
Yeah. Why would God save us just to have us die by the side of this river?
Oh well, the river, the sea,
right? The thing that God says later. In one of the portions that is upcoming, he talks about how the reason that he makes us go around, he keeps putting all of this adversity in front of us so that we will appreciate the land of opportunity and milk and honey when we get there. That we've earned it instead of like...
I mean, why do we have to earn it? He decided we're his chosen people. By the way, when they leave Egypt, they take Joseph's bones like they promised or was decreed, and they're going to bring him to the Holy Land. But it's like, why do we have to deserve it? I don't understand. God, he's like, it's sick. We're his chosen people. He decided. Why does he have to make our lives miserable?
Well, I mean, listen, you can tie this back to the thing that we talked about how why are the Jews hated? We have this moral high ground that we try to have. It's because we've gone through all this bullshit to try to listen. We went through this. Nothing's going to come easy. We know what's right because we did it wrong every other way already.
One
trial and error.
When you say that, it's true. One thing that I do believe in is that nothing worthwhile comes easy. So, hey, maybe God did have something right.
And I'll tell you this,
He's toughening us up,
53 episodes in, you'd think we would start to have earned a larger audience. Let's get those people commenting and reviewing our show with high numbers so we get more people coming to our side of the sea here.
I mean, I hope so. We hope you'll leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. It's a big mitzvah. We hope you'll tell your friends. We hope you'll post it on social media and let people know about the podcast.
Right. Tag us at American Jew Podcast on everything except for Twitter. We're American Jew Pod.
And find me on Instagram at Jonathan Randall.
I am at Beatnik Nudnik. Oi, what a fun time this was.